2024 continues to roll on, and Monday Night Raw just put on a show that many people are saying was one of the best of the year. I mean, I thought it was pretty good, but listen to this. It comes from Maverick. Hopefully it's the Maverick that flies around in the sky, and he says, Raw has been the best weekly TV show, and I don't mean any tribalism stuff when I say that. It just has so many moving parts, and it feels like there is never a wasted moment. Everyone who shows up there is for a purpose and to progress the story. I love it. And just for parity, Nostalgic Baby Bear, which is an incredible name, and I'm sure your real name, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here, but Raw kind of felt the same for the last few months, as long as I'm enjoying the Punk and Drew feud. I find the other feuds kind of stale, and there is no suspense in who's going to be the winner in the next PLE. So there we go. We have gone both ends of the bandit there. And look, listen, that's not tribalism. Tribalism would be if you go, I love Raw, it's my favorite TV show, but damn, AEW needs to die. That's when I get really, really annoyed. I really did think it was a very, very good Raw. I think they are building to bad blood, and they are trying to allow that PLE to live up to the name. I guess the best way to put it. They want it to feel like we're going to culminate a bunch of feuds, because Punk versus Drew especially is clearly going to main event. I would presume that's why Cody Rhodes isn't defending his title, because they want to end it much in the same way that Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, I'm going to presume, ended their 1997 Hell in a Cell match. We all sit around going, oh my gosh, this is absolutely crazy, because Punk came out, and for the first time since he has returned to WWE, he cut a damn serious promo. There was no playing to the fans. There was no pomp and circumstance. I don't even think he smiled, right? Like, he's been very good over the last few months, especially being like, oh, I love you guys, we're friends. He didn't even care about that. He just wanted to talk about Drew, and he just wanted to sell the idea that Hell in a Cell means that word. It means hell, it means death, it means destruction, and that's super duper important, because one of these stipulations that has been wrecked over the last 25 years, whatever it would be, is the Hell in a Cell. We remember what happened in 2019. We remember sometimes we'd have two Hell in a Cells on one show, and then we had, even way back at WrestleMania, whatever it was, we had Big Boss Man versus The Undertaker. We had the Kennel in Cell from Death, whatever it was called. It's just sucked for a long old time. But now we are selling it as there's no two things these guys can do anymore. We have to put them inside the biggest structure that they have. Punk has promised he's going to make Drew bleed. Maybe one of them is going to die. That wasn't my words. That's what CM Punk says. But now you can believe in it again. And I think believing in the Hell in a Cell is massively important, because for too long it's just kind of been like, nah, who even cares, right? Could be a cage match, could be an Elimination Chamber match. I don't really care. Whoops, bang, there's your nan. So really good work, I thought. And despite what whoever Nostalgic Baby Bear says, although he did say he likes the Drew versus Punk feud, so I'm sure he would agree this is the exception, I don't know who's going to win. I would presume that Punk is going to win because he's the babyface, and clearly WWE wants to do Gunther versus Punk, but Drew has to have a plan post this. We can't just let Drew fall back into obscurity. He's too good, and he's doing the best work of his career right now, and there's no reason why he can't take everything he's been doing with Punk and shift it and paste it across to somebody else. And it can be anybody, right? Just let Drew be Drew, let him do all the social media stuff, and he can carry on this, environment, this atmosphere that he has built. And I don't want that to go away, because again, the reason I think Raw does flow by, as the other guys said, is because you do have these characters that can come out, and sure, maybe they don't feel like a Cody Rhodes and a Roman Reigns if we sell them as the tippity top guys, but they are quite literally just below. Like a CM Punk is just below, a Drew McIntyre is right there. You can even say a Jey Uso is right there. People absolutely love this guy. So I didn't think Punk overstayed his welcome either. I thought he's kind of, he shot his shot. He made it very, very clear. His wife, his family, they don't want to do this. And it's a guarantee that what you're going to get is violence. I don't think it's going to be as violent as Hangman Page versus Swerve Strickland, although nor do I want it to be, because I'm still recovering from that. But there are ways and means. Like I saw some people talk about on social media, like, oh, it's not going to be as violent as that one. It doesn't have to be as violent as that one. You just have to take the story, have to take the program, you have to take the feud, and you have to take the violence that you are going to bring to it, and make sure it hits home. And you are doing this for a different audience. And we're the nerds, don't forget. We're the geeks. If you are just somebody that watched WWE, there is still a level you can get to where people are like, oh my gosh, this is getting super serious. So great start to Raw. I massively enjoyed it. And in terms of how I feel Raw is over 3 hours at the moment, they do a great job. It's the best Raw has ever been at 3 hours, and it's one of the concerns people do have, because obviously from October to December, it's going to go back to 2 hours. It's only 3 months. I don't think we need to worry about it, but, well, I've lost the message. I did save it, but phones suck. So instead I will go to Carl, who did talk about the CM Punk promo, because he said CM Punk's demeanor and tone in his promo was exactly what it should have been. Very deliberate and somber. His delivery was very similar to his impressions of Harley Race, funnily enough. That's a very good point. He did feel like Harley Race, and obviously Punk is a big fan of Harley Race. So yeah, definitely a couple of thumbs up for that. I really enjoyed all the stuff in the main event with the Judgment Day too. I understand that the Women's World Championship is on the line, but that has kind of not been moved off into the distance, but WWE wants you to focus on the conflict between a group that was and now a group that is, while also the fact that Liv Morgan has screwed over Rhea Ripley and he screwed over Dominic. I love the fact that Damian Priest always whips ass. I think that's great because he lost his world championship. He's meant to be a cool badass babyface and he's essentially taking on whingy, whiny heels. He should whoop their butt. And I actually think that when you get to the Finn Balor match, which again, bad blood, feud, devil, that Finn Balor could win that if you can come up with the right kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but the thing is, Damian Priest has been so dominant moving into this PLE that him taking a loss, as long as again you have something that kind of makes sense of it, it's not going to hurt him at all because right now he feels like the Undertaker circa of late 90s, early 2000s. I'm just going to beat you up. I'm going to have like 100 armor, and even if 5 people attack me, which the Judgment Day were doing, it's only going to get down to about 92, and then I'm going to take a med pack and I'll be back to 100 again. He is the end of level boss in terms of how his overall health bars work, and I love that, especially because even though he won the match, Judgment Day eventually not scarpered, but they came together. Rhea Ripley gets hit with the Oblivion and thrown into Simba the Steel Steps, courtesy of Liv Morgan, and of course we hit 3 coup de grace on Damian Priest, and it's nice and simple, right? That's what we're selling. To keep this guy down, you have to absolutely obliterate him, and he is like 6'6", 6'7", if not even bigger. He does look like a monster, and again, he was a former world champion. This ties into what I was saying about Drew and why I think Raw is a great show right now. We're thinking about this. You don't all of a sudden want him to go into 50-50 feuds because that will water him down a bit, whereas now he can lose, but again, it's coming off the back of him being a super powerful dude, so I don't mind it at all. The Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan stuff is still great, but I need them to sort of start warring more, although they did that on Raw, right? Rhea tackled Liv over Alan the announce table into Wade Barrett, and then she was going to beat her up, but again, there was too many Judgment Day members when she did get laid out, and this also, I think, is important because Judgment Day are a group, and there's 5 or 6 of them, whatever it is, and there's only 2 of the Terror Twins. The clue is in the name, so the numbers game should always win out eventually, and that's what WWE has been doing, and right now, Judgment Day feel like a massive threat again, and this is another reason. The tweet I was trying to find before is somebody says they're worried about Raw going to 2 hours because the 3-hour Raw they think has found its footing, and I agree with that, but 2 hours is just a better running length for any kind of entertainment show. We've talked about it. I don't want any show to be 3 hours. I think it's way too long. Even the odd movie at 3 hours is too long. So I'm hoping WWE can take the magic they clearly do have, and a lot of people are vibing with, and they can make it work within 120 minutes. I think that will improve the show. Now, again, if they try and fit too much in there, it may be a bit of an issue, but there's only one way to find out about it. But I love the Judgment Day stuff. I think that group has now made stars of everyone. Like Dominic Mysterio, wonderful. Liv Morgan, better than she ever has been. Damian Priest has found his place. Rhea Ripley's going to be a super duper megastar. Carlito understands his role. JD McDonough just stands there looking like an a-hole, which is his job too. And Finn Balor, I love, is the kind of de facto leader, even though he'd probably argue that. And Finn Balor has deserved this for a while. I'm going to go with that. Finn Balor has always been underutilized and underrated by WWE. He's like all-timer in some ways when you look at what he did and the influence he had on professional wrestling. So I love all of this too. I really, really do. I think there was someone that said they didn't like it, which is Robert. Thank you very much, Robert. He said, I'm exhausted of the new Judgment Day's buffoonery. Great word. Every damn week, the same cliches. It's redundant. Dom being a pathetic weak wrestler, JD and Carlito ambushing and interfering, Liv bailing them out. Every time I see them, I know both the match and my time are wasted. Well, look, dude, I respect your opinion. I would go the complete opposite. I like it that we're conforming to type, right? That's why I think Dominic Mysterio has become so good, because he understands his place in the world, and it makes him more of a dickhead, because even though he got his ass whipped, Raw ends with him being like, well, I did it. And it's the same with Liv Morgan. I think we need to see what's going to happen at Bad Blood first. But again, I appreciate the feedback, but I'm a big fan of it. And I just think you have stars in the group, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest especially. And Liv Morgan deserves a shout out too, because there was a time, even probably early 2024, maybe late 2023, where before she was injured basically, where she couldn't really find her place. And now she has found her place, and it's just beaming out of her, and she feels like a more well-rounded and realistic character. So I like it. I like the new Judgment Day. I like the fact they're wearing street trash t-shirts, because it kind of sounds like something from Sesame Street. And just Just a super quick reminder, my friends, to go to GorillaMind.com/Simon and use the code Simon to get 10% off. There is a link in the description below. But also, if you keep an eye on the website, they are often doing 30% off, especially when it comes to their pre-workout, Gorilla Mode. There's a brand new version of this now. It is genuinely the best pre-workout I've ever had in my entire life, which is why I got on board with Gorilla Mind, because I was shouting about it so much. They sent me a message that said, Simon, you may as well be part of the team. It really is the best line of gym supplements I've ever used, and I've been training for over 20 years now, which is quite sad. And they even do stuff like multivitamins now, and it also ships worldwide. So again, it's always 10% off using my code Simon. And if you do keep an eye on GorillaMind.com, you never know, my friends, you may be getting up to 30% off. And they got an array of stuff as well. So check them out today. It supports me, it supports the channel. I appreciate you, and I appreciate it. Now back to the video. Obviously, the true highlight was Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman. What can I even say about this? It was two big men slapping man meat, and they just went nuts. The highlight, of course, being, and it went up on the crime counter. Make sure you check out Ups and Downs for Raw over on What Culture, featuring this bald idiots, when Bronson Reed grabbed a human man from the fans and lawn darted him into Braun Strowman. It was wonderful. And there's an incredible camera angle that you have to go find on social media of the POV of Reed doing it. This stuff is tremendous. They fought all over the place. They went through a wall. Some people are like, oh, it's a Shockmaster type wall. Yeah, but we meant to do it. Shockmaster wasn't meant to trip over the bricks. Stop being such negative Nancys. They were throwing each other through tables, and then they were smashing Tina the Turnbuckle out of the ring. It was just two horses going at it, and I'm hoping they have a last man standing match and Bronson Reed wins. Bronson Reed to win, and then when Seth Rollins can come back, I assume Seth will get the victory there. But again, it's a Damian Priest situation. Light a fire under Bronson Reed's ass and make sure you have a long-term plan for him. And I think the reason this worked so well is because it is a 3-hour Raw, but then all of a sudden they gave you, 8 minutes of pure adrenaline injected right into your eye. So of course you're going to enjoy that, because one, they can pull it off, but two, it's just carnage. And it was just Dr. Robotnik chaos. I think I have a few other people that talked about it. I do. Classy Crusader says, absolutely insane. Braun and Bronson completely destroyed that conveniently placed breakable wall. Don't take away, I know you're saying it in a good way, but don't take away my most fun about wrestling. Wrestling tropes and dumb stuff are the best. And Michael Morris said, Raw was very good. Laughed at the human dart from Bronson. I like that they are coming up with new ways to make him look like a beast. Hopefully it continues. And there you go. So people understand that as well. And then on the flip side of that, you had everything with the New Day. Now let's not forget the WWE Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods quite clearly had to pivot here, because it was meant to have something to do with Odyssey Jones, who was gone, and we still haven't had an official reason, so I won't talk about it till I do know, because I don't want to speculate and, cast aspersions or anything like that. But now we've gone to this idea, they won the tag team championships, right? But they didn't, because the ref was distracted, mostly because the LWO came out, and Xavier Woods have been going around saying to the old Judgment Day, don't you get involved in this, I don't want you, whereas Kofi, unbeknownst to Xavier, had gone to the LWO and said, oh, if they attack us, you must help, and ultimately it cost them. And Xavier Woods is mad at Kofi for not telling him, and Kingston's excuse was, oh, Big E's not with us, we need protection. And Xavier Woods then felt like he was nothing, and he was just like a little piece of crap on the street, and they kind of did have a big blowout. Now, I do not think they are going to have a traditional WWE style breakup. I think, given that it has been 10 years of the New Day, 2014 till 2024, they may have a match, which would be totally cool, but I don't think the group will break up, and they always said they never wanted to do that. Maybe Big E comes back in as the Peacekeeper or the Peacemaker. No idea if he can wrestle, but either way, that would still be a great moment. And I would like to hold this off to WrestleMania. I mean, it's probably too far away, but Kofi Kingston versus Xavier Woods, where they're friends but enemies, so frenemies, I would just love it, because this it is an all-time group. Sometimes people debate me when I say this. You're perfectly allowed. But for me, I mean, so consistent. Maybe there were times when it felt a little bit lackluster, but again, if you're going to try and keep going for 10 years, when you have weekly television, it would happen to everybody. There is not one person. John Cena had lackluster moments, right? If Austin and The Rock had gone longer, they would have had lackluster too, but they're only around for a few years. I just think they're special, and I really do think they are two guys that are underutilized and underrated. I'm going to use that phrase again. I just love them, and they just entertain me, and the fact they're willing to do this and now add a serious edge to everything, once again, going back to what that person said, it makes Raw infinitely more watchable. I got Brian George here too. I'm not going to read all of them because we don't need to, but please don't break up the New Day. Please don't break up the New Day. Please don't break up the New Day. And it just goes on and on and on. I don't think we will. I think it will be like a family that falls out. We'll tease it and we'll go left and we'll go right, and it will have us on tenterhooks and have us crying out of our eyes. But ultimately, they will find a way to make it up to each other. And that will only give the group a new spin, I suppose, which they probably do need. And I hope they have one last tag team title run in them, because because I'm just big fans of them. I just am. I think they understand professional wrestling, and I think they're way better wrestlers than they get credit for. So that was a couple of thumbs too. I want to point out that Ike Duncan had also actually weighed in on the Bronson Reed thing, because he said using fans as weapons should certainly go on the crime counter. Don't worry, my man, it did. And we had Bobby Blabby. This is a great name too. She said the crowd was electric last night. Joe Tessitore is really groaning in the role and has great chemistry with Wade. I agree with that. I like the commentary a lot. Jey Uso can cut one hell of a promo. Finn and Xavier are not telling lies. They legit are telling for real reasons. They shouldn't be the bad guys, but somehow are. It's a good point, especially with Finn Balor. I mean, you mentioned Jey Uso there. Just a great promo between him and Bron Breakker. They didn't do anything special. It's not like something we're going to be talking about to years to come. But Jey Uso is just so over, and people are so desperate to see him. And I think because Bron Breakker was just a badass, people like him as well, that they could just go at it barb for barb, and everybody just enjoyed it. Like Bron Breakker was like, you've been here for 14 years, you never won a singles title, I've won one in 6 months. And Jey Uso was like, well, that's great, but you've not got any legacy right now, so maybe your WWE run will be over quicker than your NFL career, which admittedly did go pretty damn fast. So it just, and then obviously, you know, Bron Breakker then gets speared by Jey Uso to prove that he can get him. But then in the main event, when Jey Uso is trying to help out Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley, who he befriended properly throughout this episode of Raw, he gets speared by Bron Breakker. They're doing the match next week. The crazy thing about that match is if Bron Breakker won, obviously, but if Jey Uso won, I wouldn't be like, oh man, we've wrecked Bron Breakker. I'd be so happy for Jey Uso. And I want to keep repeating myself, but when you have characters that you can invest into this degree, of course, it's going to make the show better. So they didn't even do that much. And Jey Uso was mostly involved in backstage segments here, but he always came across like a megastar, and Bron Breakker is already the man, and he's going to become more of the man, so he's the man times 2. Doreen Sabby says that Belair vs. Sky match is like top 10 matches I've ever seen, top 10 TV matches I've ever seen. Chef's kiss. Well, I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't go that far, but I did think it was pretty damn terrific, and this kind of ties into my only criticism I do have on Raw, is that the whole Natalya and who the hell is she with, Lyra Valkyria and Zelina Vega versus the Pure Fusion Collective, best name in all of professional wrestling, we just need more narrative. And I get this one guy that keeps coming at me. I get it. I'm giving him airtime now, so more for me. Oh, you just don't like women's wrestling. It has nothing to do with women's wrestling, which is why I bring this up here. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair was the best match on the show, or at least arguably, right? It was so damn good. They have so much chemistry, and the story makes sense too. Io goes to Bianca and says, why are you taking on Kairi Sane? She's injured, which she definitely is. Bianca says, well, no, that's what management told me to do. I'm happy to take on you instead. They're also gunning for the tag team titles, so there's just layers here. Whereas when you go back to Zoe Stark versus Natalya, which is the match we did do, we just got a bunch of 6 people fighting, and originally it was Lyra Valkyria, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance. Where did they go? Now listen, maybe they need some time off. Cool. Maybe they're injured. Cool. Absolutely. Take your time. Nothing more important than that, but we do not get told, so it just feels so wishy-washy. I just need what's the word I'm looking for? But I need a nugget, right? A nugget of gold that I can just latch onto. Oh, now I understand why they're fighting. Otherwise, you're just fighting for the sake of fighting, which I do not mind. But that's not the show that Raw is. Everybody else on Raw has a story, they have a narrative, they have depth to it, they have stuff that you can talk about and have a discourse. So it's really basing on what else you do see. When all of a sudden you have a feud that, I don't want to say it's empty, but it's kind of just there, it does stand out like a sore thumb. It's nothing to do with the people in this match. Natalya, one of the best women's wrestlers in WWE ever. Can't argue it. Lyra Valkyria, do you see her in NXT? She knows what she's doing. Zelina Vega is just great. Like, they need to do more with her. And while the Pure Fusion Collective have a stupid name, they're awesome. Look at them. Go look on WWE.com. I'll try and put the picture up there. That is a badass, cool team. But you need to just do more than have random matches, right? Which is why another reason I like Io Sky and Bianca Belair so much, because you can see that it's building to something. So, yeah, you should just go and watch it. And Io Sky beating Bianca Belair is massive. The only issue that I do have with it, and I don't mind because the Belair Jade Cargill tag team is awesome, Bianca Belair needs to be back in the women's division yesterday fighting for singles championships. That's how good she is. Amazing babyface, such a talented performer, and I feel like she has so much appeal to a wide audience. You want to showcase her as much as possible, but we'll get there, and I do believe at WrestleMania 41 it will be Bianca versus Jade. Again, if you click the card, hopefully I remember to put it up there. It'll be at the end of the video either way. My predictions for WrestleMania 41, I put that slap bang in the middle. Ring Rants and Reviews also actually weighed on the IC title stuff and said Bron Breakker nailed it tonight. The Intercontinental title and that jacket gave him a killer look. I enjoy how you watch wrestling, and his promo brought a whole new level of passion to the feud. Future world champion vibes for sure. I mean, he's definitely going to win it eventually. And go back to the match, Jesus says Zoe Stark slayed with that ring gear. I didn't look, so I don't know what he's talking about. Io Sky is an international treasure. Agree. I actually had another thing with CM Punk and Drew. I didn't realize I'd taken 2, but I guess it just goes to show there is parity there. As far as I'm concerned, best feud in the whole company, whereas very much tired of Drew and Punk. It feels like the same thing week in, week out, and now just a repeat of Punk MJF. I don't agree with that. Now, that being said, it's excusable. as long as AJ shows up for 2 seconds. I didn't want to do that. If AJ Lee comes back, she should absolutely be her own megastar. She was huge. People would go nuts, CM Punk or not. And a nice way to finish it is with Weichel, or maybe he means Michael, I don't know. Simon, I kid you not, this may have been my favorite Raw this year. Golden Up. I did think it was very good, and I did think it was building for the future, and we didn't even feature every single star on this show, and there's probably a few things that I've forgotten to talk about as well, but I feel like we've talked long enough, so we can draw a line under it there. So make sure you let me know in the comments below what you thought about this. Make sure you come throw me your thoughts all the time on social media at simonmiller316. I will always gather them and try and get them into videos. Click the video on the screen, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. We talked about Gorilla Mind. Please do support me there if you can. Otherwise, at GoGo Fitness, use the code Simon20 if you want to train at home with Anthony or GoGo. It's not the worst thing in the world. Patreon.com/Simon at 316. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo if you like a personalized video. And brand new t-shirts are going up all the time at ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller, especially my brand new surprise roll-ups t-shirt. I peaked, to be honest. I may never make another t-shirt again. Take care. Goodbye.